All right, the current explanation for the GPU market is mostly due to the chip shortage, to a lesser degree suppliers, and to an even lesser degree crypto mining. If that's the case, why have AMD CPU availability issues mostly subsided while GPUs have gotten worse? So, yeah, I'm not sure whether your explanation of why the GPU market is currently the way it is 100% accurate. I would say that crypto mining is probably playing a bit more of a role there in terms of the pricing of GPUs than you're sort of suggesting here. Obviously, the chip shortage and supplies are problems.
They're all contributing.
That they can't just make infinite supply immediately on these things. It takes time. But obviously, crypto mining has increased demand and is increasing prices. And there's plenty of evidence to suggest that the price of Ethereum is very closely linked to GPU pricing. That's been shown many times. So anyway, if that's the case, why have AMD CPU availability issues mostly subsided while GPUs have gotten worse? So AMD obviously has the issues of trying to prioritize 7 nanometer supply into things that matter for them. And often with these things, they're going to have to lock in what things they want to make ahead of time. So they have to say, many months in advance, use this amount of wafers on CPUs, this amount of wafers on GPUs. And it is possible that at some point, they've locked in GPUs, say, manufacturing for 6 months, and they predicted a certain amount of demand was supply was needed to meet demand, and that's really wrong, but they can't change that up until a certain point. So that's one possible explanation why GPU supply maybe hasn't improved as much as AMD would have liked. But at the same time, CPUs as well are a higher profit margin product for AMD because they can a 5950X costs a fair bit of money, certainly more than most of their GPU line, uses a smaller chiplet dies. They can make more profit per wafer. So they're going to want to prioritize fulfilling supply for CPUs first because that's likely going to make them more money. Even things like EPYC CPUs, right? You want to get a lot of those EPYC CPUs out because they can sell them for thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Once that's all solved, then they can go to things like GPUs. And so now that we've seen AMD solve CPU supply, I think that was fairly likely to always be the first thing to come back from AMD.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because the comment is based on what we can see, and the reason we see things that way is because there is less demand for CPUs.
That's
and
right.
There is much more demand for GPUs, and people still want CPUs, but you've got Intel there. Intel's sort of there going, "Hey guys, please buy our GPU.
We can make as many 14 nanometer things as we want."
Yeah,
right?
so there's never really been a situation where you couldn't get a CPU. Like, certain models have been difficult to get, but you could always get a CPU. You could always get a high-end gaming CPU of some description. When it comes to GPUs, that hasn't been the case. There's just more demand there. So that's why that situation is the way it is.
Yeah, definitely. So I would expect things to get better. I think AMD, they're going to be flying out as many of those 7 nanometer wafers as they can, and over time they're going to prioritize GPUs more than CPUs. If your CPUs are sitting on shelves and GPUs are selling, then they're going to want to produce more GPUs and fewer CPUs. That's how it always goes.